All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday night, and for some, it might be an extended July 4th week off. It could be maybe the getting ready for a weekend. Maybe you just went to the movies. Maybe you just in between waiting for SmackDown. Who knows what else is in store? But we are kicking off the weekend once again here in style. Just hours before his first defense for his first championship in over 17 years, he is the reigning defending RCW Underground Champion of the World, and he's going to talk about Wrestling Championship Entertainment's showdown in the yard and his showdown against Adonis Felios, the Drip King himself. He is no stranger to Sportswire Radio. He needs no further introduction, but because he is the champion, he is going to certainly get the usual introduction. So with without further ado, here I'm a sports report. The number one global sports show, the reigning, defending RCW Underground Champion of the World, the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson. The champ is here, my friend.
Thank you, Tom.
I've
Again,
seen
I
a
will
lot
say
of you
this.
today, by the way. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, and like always, you have the best intros in this business. I really wish you were like. We need to one of these days. If we ever have a super show, we need you to be the ring announcer.
I'm gonna definitely try to get there. Unfortunately, this weekend, which was one of the weekends we targeted, I unfortunately can't actually make it because there's a actually let the cat out of the bag here. Speaking of announcements, there's a British wrestler that I actually interviewed a couple years ago. It's actually been one of our favorites on Sportswire. Is actually on his way to New York City, and he has requested to meet me. So otherwise, I would have probably been down there maybe at Showdown in New York. But it was definitely something that we're going to work on here. I do want to say hello, and first of all, here I want to say hello to one of my listeners who actually caught me from Russian radio, Mr. Anthony Finkel. Yes, we were on Russian radio. I will definitely talk about that. I'll have an announcement for that in a little while. But Nicholas Crenson, the new Messiah, you are certainly no stranger to Sportswire Radio. We spoke with you a couple of weeks ago about winning that championship that you have on your shoulders right now from Mr. Sean Jovi himself, and you are going to be in action in your first title defense now against Adonis Felios. And I was on your YouTube page at Nicholas Crenson, and I was reminded about the fact that last year the Drip King himself actually beat you right around the same time here. And I mean, what do we do here to almost avoid losing that championship and becoming kind of a footnote here and going back to where you were before? So, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, set the tables for us on what we're going to do against Adonis Felios and anything else more on Sportswire Radio.
Okay, so I'm gonna actually. You mentioned like back last year. Actually, May 21st, Vindication is the first time me and Adonis faced each other. But, in my defense, that's also the same day that right before the match, I was viciously assaulted by a returning James Marshall. So that match, yes, Adonis got me. He got me. I was also in no shape to compete anyway. He still got me. Fast forward. October 7th, Fighter Fright 2, Day 1.
I remember it. My birthday.
I defeated Adonis one-on-one. I didn't just defeat him. I beat him clean. I made him tap. I'm one of the only... Out of people who have beaten Adonis, only 2 people have beaten him by making him tap out.
We spoke about it at the end of last season how it basically puts you into the motions of momentum because last year you struggled throughout most of the season, and that was a victory that put you on the path to where you are. No question. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That was one of the victories that you could say got me that momentum. And, that momentum, with a little bit of stop starts here and there this beginning of this year, led me to this. Now, would I could say, oh, I'm going to smash, I'm going to dominate Adonis Filios. It's going to be such an easy win. I'm not a moron, though, like some people. I know what Adonis is capable of in the ring. What he lacks in experience, he does make up for in power and size. And he is, I hate to say this, but if he gets you with a chop or a Grizzly Magnum chop, he literally knocks the wind out of you. Now, I said I put every name out there when I got this belt for challengers, and he was one of the first ones I said, and that's because Adonis is somebody who is hungry to be a champion.
Well, he's shown himself that he's right there. We saw when Jovi held the title, and in his words, he feels he was robbed from Craven Rage's titles. So if you think about it, and we know that he's also the AIW champion in that promotion, Adonis has certainly been one of those guys that has been a believable foe, and he's a tough foe for you in a first defense. It wasn't as if you got Mickey Mouse, or if you got a Killer Rabbit, or if you got any other make-believe name that we've seen here in WCE or Johnny Come Lately. You have been given somebody that can certainly pull an upset here, a mild one here, and take you back to where you belong. You were for these 17 years, and some may say where you belonged.
See, that's the thing. Some might say that, and so they might have their reasons too. But the thing with Adonis is he has all the potential in the world, but he hasn't realized how to utilize it yet. It's the same with people like Darkfire, like a Zero, who we're still waiting to hear back from, like a Tyler Ark, who have taken.
We're gonna get to him because obviously you're gonna be watching a match here that I think a lot of people are gonna be really kind of intrigued about and what happens there. So we're gonna get to Tyler in a little while, the main Machinist.
Yeah, like them, it's he has the strength, he has the power. It's just that he lacks that one key mindset that you need when you go into the ring with somebody like me or somebody like a Craven.
Right, and that's what I said when we had him on here, is that, okay, you might have had a case as to maybe you could have won the all-out title, but the champion found a way, and they don't give you extra credit in the record books. A loss is a loss. So no question about all that. Let me get to some people here because I got a lot of comments here, and I want people to be able to say hello. My very good friend, our friends over from the Wrestling Appreciation Society, Mr. Matt Royale. Of course, he was the Deadline Rumble winner. Up at 4:14 in the morning, he says, "Good evening, gents," and I will say hello to Matt, and I will definitely have Matt back on here as we get closer to the next WAS show. Our friends over at Backyard Elite Wrestling say good day. This individual who calls himself the good guy CJ Black, and he is a part of things over at ROEW, and they're on Instagram and YouTube, ROEW Backyard Wrestling, and he says that you, Nicholas Crenson, look like Jacob Collins, who's my guest tomorrow night, and I want to smack the hat off his head, stupid Jacob Collins lookalike. You want to respond to that at all? Do you even know who Jacob Collins is? Probably not.
No, right? No idea.
You have no idea who ROEW is, right?
Oh, I know about ROEW. I know about people like CJ Black, Jason Storm.
Well, he was a Craven. You definitely know Jason Storm, I would imagine.
Jack Delta.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And I know about places like ROEW. I know about TBW. I know about DKW. I know about IMF. I know about XCW. I keep my head on a swivel when it comes to backyard wrestling. I'm going to ask
you about a couple of those promotions. I'm going to ask you, but not just yet. So obviously, Mr. Black, and I'll certainly reserve comment on that, and I'll let Mr. Black address his feelings toward Mr. Collins on tomorrow's show. Adonis Felios is tuned in, your opponent. We'll come back to him in a second. I want to give a big shout out to another company you just mentioned, our friends over at DKW. And DKW was tuned in for my interview today with our friends over at Davidson Radio. Of course, Mr. Gregory Davidson, friend of Sportswire Radio, friend of the station. He is the owner of the worldwide renowned Davidson Radio. Gave us a massive, massive opportunity. Evening, everyone. We'll try to stay on as long as we can. Please follow Dark Cryptic Wrestling on YouTube. Check them out. They have a big show that they just took place with IMF, and we're going to talk about that here. I'm sure at some point we're going to get to watch the show on their page very soon. Combat Joe, also from DKW, is in the house. Tyler Ark, how are you doing, champion? Are you ready for Saturday? And also here, Craven Rage. Okay, so let's come back then to Adonis Felios. Adonis Felios here could be a dangerous opponent for the simple reason that he's looking for something to prove here. He would love more than anything else than to not only knock you off, but even be a double champion. He's got an opportunity to have 2 championship belts here with a win, and he can really put himself on the map here because, like you said, in WC, his run has been kind of like what your run was last year. You know, you were credible, you were in there, but you couldn't quite get over the finish line. So, I mean, without telling us, what are you going to do to avoid an upset on this weekend?
See, that's the thing, Tom. I'm more of a person who kind of thinks his plans out in the ring most of the time. I do always have a plan, though.
We know you for a while. That's true. Okay, fair play.
But here's the thing. You kind of pointed out here. He's got something to prove. This is going to be my first challenge, and it's going to be probably the toughest challenge. One of the toughest challenges is always the first one, because it's not only that Adonis has something to prove. I'm getting an Adonis Felios that is getting into desperation mode. And that actually intrigues me. Is not because I'm facing an Adonis that has something to prove. I'm facing an Adonis that's about to get desperate, that is getting desperate. Because look at last show. He thought he had Craven dead to rights.
He was here swearing up and down. He was trying to prove me that he was going to be the champion.
He almost did.
But they don't give you credit for almost.
Right. They don't.
When I was in law class in college, if I came up and had a good presentation, but it wasn't quite the presentation my law professor wanted, he looked at me and said, "You didn't get the job done." And to me, it's the same thing. The presentation was good, but it didn't quite get enough.
Adonis, he was smart. He did something smart for once, and he targeted the legs of Craven. Something that very few people have done is target a body part. But Craven was just as smart, and he targeted Adonis's arm, which is always been a weak spot for Adonis. Every time he's lost by submission, be it to me or Craven, has been via some sort of submission on the arms.
Let me ask you a question, though. And I wasn't going to ask you this question, but I am now because the last time you were a champion was 17 years ago. It's well documented. I'm not going to go down that road of this, that, and championship droughts. You've got the title now. But I'm going to ask you a question that I don't know if you've thought about this, and you usually think about everything. Is this the biggest match of your career upcoming this weekend, this first title defense?
Now that I have this, every match from here on out is going to be the biggest match of my career, because it's basically I have to do my damnedest to keep this around my beautiful shoulder here. I have to do everything in my power to make sure that whoever is trying to take this from me, they have a hell of a time when they do that. Being a champion isn't easy, and it's never meant to be easy. But you
haven't been in this spot in 17 years. I've had you on, I don't know, 7, 8 times over the past year. We always do this dance about you and the title, you and the streak. But now you've got the title. And I kind of think it's sometimes the transition of being the guy that's the hunter or the guy that's trying to chase the streak and break it to now being the champion. It's a different animal. And you really haven't really defended a title in your career. So it's almost like this is a new element for you, Nicholas Crenson.
Here's the thing. I was meant to be a champion. I was meant to be a champion from day one because, yes, it is a different animal. Chasing the gold and keeping the gold are two different beasts altogether. But guess what? I was meant to have a title around my arm and be a champion of worth because I don't expect shit to be easy. I don't. And any champion who has easy matches isn't a champion worth watching. So I want the tough challenges. I want the guys like the Adonis Filioses, the Darkfires, the Dash Andrews, the J Stereos, Tyler Arks, the Almond Blacks, the Soldier GPs,
Wait, you do you say Omen Black and Soldier GP?
the Jordan Nets. I'm listing off people who actually could be credible challenges for me.
Okay, they don't work in WCE though.
Hmm?
Okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna save that thought. I'm gonna save that because I'm burning at the stomp here to talk about that. But I have one particular comment from another country that actually addresses you, and let me give that to Mr. Royale because he's up at 4:22 in the morning, and he says maybe you should bring that gold over to the UK. This king needs his crown. Now, do you have your passport?
Not yet, but I've always been interested in wrestling in the UK.
Well, I think the two places in Sportswire that are international that I think at this point we're going to be making waves for. Obviously, the UK, we've done that for years, but I think is Russia. So, I mean, as crazy as that sounds, between the UK and Russia, get that passport going here. And I love to see you in the ring here with a Matt Royale. So maybe you get that passport, and I'd love to see you defend the championship there against the Deadline Rumble winner. And CJ Black here is a funny one. Adonis PP dripping. Get that checked out, son. Anything you want to add to that? Anything you want to follow up with that on? It's kind of like one of those maybe move on moment here, but
Yeah,
let's move on then from that. You mentioned Tyler Ark a few minutes ago, and I wanted to ask you about Tyler Ark, and I'll come back to your match with Adonis. I'll come back to some other things here as we're on Sportswire Radio with our reigning defending RCW Underground Champion of the World, Nicholas Crenson. He now has a Facebook and YouTube page. Go and give him a sub, give him a follow. He's got a lot of match content on there, and he's got a lot of things he's working on here. He's one of our favorites on Sportswire Radio. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryson. Tyler Ark is a guy that I guess you've been trying to mold, kind of show the light. And he's in this match coming up, which could actually determine who's going to take on Craven Rage, our reigning, defending WC all-out champion, the backyard nightmare, the ruler of the yard, and certainly a number of different things we can say about Mr. Rage, I'm sure, is something that'll come up in a little while. But he's in this match here, which I'm not quite sure what to make of here. And he's also faced off in the ring with Jay Stereo. We know Jay Stereo very well. And another opponent here that is named Skulls. Skulls the Soul Hunter. And this is the match in a lot of ways. I have no idea what to expect here. So your guy, Tyler Ark, has an opportunity really to step over everybody here in the ladder and get himself a title shot against Craven Rage. And what's your thoughts on this? And have you said anything to the man on Machinist? And what can we expect here in this four-way match to determine who gets a crack at Craven Rage's all-out title?
So after Ring of Destruction, Tyler was kind of despondent that he didn't win his match on that show. I kind of sat him down and I kind of told him like, yo, you need to clear your head. And that's the one thing with Tyler Ark that I've noticed over the past year is that it's an old saying in professional wrestling training is get out of your own head.
Right.
Sometimes, and I'll even say this about my opponent, Adonis Filios. Though both him and Tyler Ark kind of have the same drawback is a lot of the times, and a lot of the younger guys too, they get stuck in their own head. And when you do that, you'll make mistakes that when you kind of clear your mind and just kind of accept certain things and let yourself just go with the flow of things in the ring that you wouldn't see otherwise when you're worrying about what's this guy going to do? What's this guy going to do? you got to kind of clear your head when you're in the ring. And I told them that. And now, Billiards and Jay Stereo, those two are easy to prep for. I had them study both of
Yep.
them. Billiards isn't really that hard to study of a study anyway. Jay Stereo, he does prove to
He's
be
got some interesting moves. He's got some
yeah,
heart. He's got some flair. I mean, there's no question that Jay Stereo brings something to the table that's a
and
little bit missing in WC. I agree.
oh yeah, and like the only wild card, and we've discussed this weeks on weeks on. The only wild card in the match is Skulls.
I have
Yeah,
no idea. I get asked from wrestlers all over the world, and they tell me, what is this guy capable of? And I'm like, I have no idea. I mean, I'm fascinated by this guy who's come here from another state.
it's
He's got a story that's very unique, and he's come hours and hours away here to come to WC and wrestle in his first match, I think, since Obama was president. And I don't know what to expect from this guy.
so yeah. So and here's the interesting thing. It's
Right.
you could say WC is taking a gamble by letting him come in. No, this is his gamble. Like he's putting all his chips in, and he could either have a great showing and succeed great, or it could just all fall apart for him.
That's what you told me off the air. You're the one that said, no, it's him that's coming all the way out here. And he's the one that can have this totally blow up in his face. And I hadn't thought of it that way.
Well, think about it. You're traveling all the way from like one state to another to do a match or to wrestle, and like our guys, some of our guys are still working on things, but you got, if he's gonna end up, if he's so certain that he's going to win that 4-way and face Craven Rage, that's that's good for him. Tyler plans on winning it. I know Billiards probably plans on winning, and same with Jay Stereo. But only one of them can go on to face Craven Rage. And if it is, if Skulls somehow manages to win that 4-way and go on to face Craven Rage for the All Out title, that's where that is going to become a humbling experience.
If you would have asked me, and I have some comments, I'll get to them, but if you would have asked me 3 months ago, let's say 3 months ago even, that Tyler Ark could very well be the favorite in this match to determine who gets the crack at Craven Rage's title, I would have laughed at you. But thinking about it here, in these opponents, now Jay Stereo has been credible, he's been worthy, and Billiards has been, formidable at times. And then you've got this Skulls guy who I've had on the show multiple times, and I like Skulls. I own his t-shirt even, but I don't really know what this guy's capable of. So then it kind of leaves it by process of elimination, champ, that just maybe Tyler Ark is in the best position of anybody here to actually go on and maybe take that crack at Craven Rage's all-out title.
And you got to also remember that Tyler has a lot of, how do I say this? Tyler Ark was embarrassed last year, if you remember.
I definitely remember. I mean, we had him on here, I think, at the very beginning, in the middle of the offseason, earlier this year, the beginning of the year, and it was like, I don't want to say he was cringeworthy, but, he was certainly almost like he had the training wheels on. Let me just put it to you that way.
Yeah, because he, like right now, I would say he, yes, you could say he's the favorite to win the match. I don't know if if training him enough would prepare him to face Craven again, because yes, he did get embarrassed by Craven last year, and yes, he's wanted to get that match with Craven again for a while now. But here's the thing: the Craven Rage that we are seeing right now is a completely different Craven than the one that Tyler Ark faced the year before. Heck, it's a completely different Craven Rage from the one I faced when he first beat me for that belt.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you on. Let me get to some comments here. First, Mr. Rage would like to say, well, champ, I truly hope that you taught him very well, because if Tyler Ark survived to face me, then he's coming into a nightmare. And then I have one for you specifically from the good guy CJ Black, who says, I can wrestle circles around you and leave you with your belt before you have time to wipe the tears from your eyes. You want a real challenge, kid?
I'd be careful with the kid remark here, CJ. Yeah.
You think that that maybe is a cocky comment because he's been maybe fortunate, some may say, has been kind of rubbing elbows with Jack Delta, kind of the backyard wrestling darling right now in the scene. Do you think that's a possibility, or what, or
Eh,
something else?
I'm more thinking around the lines of I'm you know what, I'll do my research first before I answer that. But yeah,
Oh,
like
okay, I respect that you actually said, you know what, let me think before I say something, because CJ Black, I will say, I'll give him this. He can wrestle in the ring, and he actually, I've watched a lot of his matches recently, and this is a guy that, for my money, is going to be one of the top, not just backyard wrestling guys, but I think wrestling guys all around. And I want to plug that company, ROEW, for a second. ROEW Backyard Wrestling on Instagram and YouTube. They put on some phenomenal shows, and they have a phenomenal roster and some great matches upcoming. And I'm very excited to see CJ Black in action coming up against my guest tomorrow, Jacob Collins. So, Mr. Black, certainly I give him his due. And also, Mr. Ark would like to tell you, I will survive the fatal four-way match and become the champion. Now, I think the last part of that, I think, is very much maybe be careful what you wish for there. No?
mm, it's good to have confidence, and you could also say be careful
Confidence
what you.
is one thing, but that might be overconfidence, to say the least, if he's going to become the champion against Craven, because you just said it yourself. Craven Rage right now is the backyard nightmare. He's the ruler of the yard in this industry. He is the guy that right now people from all over the scene have been going on and challenging here on Sportswire Radio. So, I mean, Mr. Ark is almost, I mean, I don't think he's a Buster Douglas here and can pull a knockout like he did to Mike Tyson back in 1990 in Tokyo. I'm not quite sure I see that yet in Tyler Ark.
I don't see that yet either, but there's also that whole wrestling is that one area where anything can happen. Now, will it happen? Not necessarily, but we could always see a surprise.
Possibly. I will say possibly. And I want to say hello here to our reigning defending interstate openweight champion, who is going to be in action. I'll very quickly touch upon him. James Marshall will be on my way to the WC Arena afterwards. Well, speaking of which, what do you think happens here in this match between Catalyst and Zombaronis? I mean, this is kind of, if you saw the WC's YouTube page at Wrestling Championship Entertainment's at WC Heat on YouTube, you certainly saw some interesting words there, to say the least. And is this a match maybe we shouldn't overlook? And what do you think on that there, champ?
It's going to be an interesting match. Both Catalyst and Sombronis is actually a pretty big dude.
Yes.
I almost want to say he's just about as big or bigger than Jovi. And I felt
saying a lot there. Saying a lot.
I felt one of his chops last show, and that pretty much knocked the wind out of me. What I expect is this is going to be a very interesting and entertaining matchup, and it's also going to be a kind of almost like a hard hitting matchup because, well, Catalyst is involved, and whether he's Catalyst or whether he takes off the mask, gets a little bit more serious and becomes James Marshall, he's one of the hardest hitting men we have in the entire roster.
Oh, absolutely. No question about that. That I certainly agree with you on here. And I guess then, how long do you think we'll see a James Marshall rather than Catalyst? I mean, that was kind of touched upon here. What do you say toward that?
Well, we did see him at Ring of Destruction. He had to take off the mask to deal with the Midnight Devil. I think it just depends upon the right moment and right person bringing him out. Who knows? We could not see James Marshall for the rest of the year. We could see him at, I don't know, next month. You never know. You know,
Let me ask you a question. Speaking of which, now, obviously, we know that the interstate title is being defended here in Showdown in the Yard, but there's something that's glaring here, and I was curious what your perspective on this so far was because nothing's been announced about the man that you took your title from currently at the moment, the resident rock star Sean Jovi himself. And I was wondering, I mean, what do you make of that glaring exception so far here on the card? There's no Sean Jovi. Do you have any thoughts on that, or care to elaborate on what you think as to why we haven't seen him advertised on this card yet so far?
there's two things. One, I want to say Jovi is probably still kind of nursing the results of that match we had at Ring of Destruction. But also, if you remember, he did announce that he was going to cash in his rain check at our anniversary show
Yes.
next month, which I believe, yes,
I
just
asked him about that. He broke it here, and then also on his show, RCW Rules on YouTube for Jovi's Vlogs, he basically made the full announcement there because we had him here, and his audio was terrible, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think I know what the problem was there. But he, we're definitely gonna hear from him because but I'll make this bold prediction. We're going to hear from Jovi after the Catalyst versus Sombronis match is concluded, because Jovi is I believe that Jovi is waiting until he knows for certain who the man is going to be that he's going to be staring across the ring at Rise to the Occasion in August.
And I asked him that question. I'll ask it to you because you just faced off with the man twice before I get to some comments. You think Jovi has a preference here, or you don't think it matters to him?
I actually talked to him a while back after our match, and I even said to him, like, I posed that question, Sombronis or Catalyst, but then I also posed the bigger question to him, and I think that's the one I'm waiting for the answer to, and that's Catalyst or James Marshall. Like,
yeah,
because here's the thing. When they face, if Catalyst does retain and they face off at Rise to the Occasion, it is going to be one of the biggest matches in our NWC history for two reasons. One, it is a rematch of the very first WCE match.
right.
And it'll also be the third time that these two have faced each other in the ring. Now,
and also the COVID situation from last year.
Yeah, they were supposed to have that third match at Fighter Fright, and the other main thing that like people kind of forget here is, and why I posed that question to Jovi, and I'm interested to see what his answer, what he says when he does finally make that choice of who he really wants. Now, if he does have to face Catalyst / James again, he did mention, he did say, I brought up a good point with it is he's beaten Catalyst. He's never beaten James Marshall.
That certainly makes it interesting, and it almost makes it think about your situation, maybe not as dire. I will get to a comment here from my guest tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Jacob Collins from our friends over at RLBW. Don't listen to CJ Black. The only people he can beat is a homeless guy and a cameraman, which is what the champion this past Sunday said. Jason Storm, the wild card Jason Storm, who famously faced off the week prior with Craven Rage. So certainly I'll get Jacob's perspective on that. You can follow Jacob Collins on YouTube. Also check him out on Instagram, but especially through our friends over at ROEW Backyard Wrestling. And we are here live on Sportswire Radio with the reigning defending RCW Underground Champion. His name is the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson. My name, you might know by now, is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I'm the man behind Sportswire Radio. And if you like what you hear from us, we are on YouTube at Sportswire Radio. You can give us a sub, give us a follow, follow us here on our journey. On Facebook, we're at Sportswire Radio, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player. I want to thank everybody that tuned in here earlier this afternoon as I was on the worldwide Davidson Radio, 6:20 a.m. Over 50,000 people tuned in. We had 200 people that wanted to tune in and speak to me, and many other people also. Well, we only got a few calls in because that's what the beauty of radio is, 1 hour. But I want to thank Gregory Davidson, the owner of the station, for granting us this opportunity to get into some new homes. And I think Mr. Davidson sees that wrestling could be a possible avenue there for the Russian market and for the Russian wrestling fans out there, as they're a new company. So stay tuned maybe for more announcements there for that. But certainly we are here on Sportswire Radio speaking with Nicholas Crenson, the new Messiah. And I believe this individual is somebody also near and dear to you. That is Mr. Zero Deus. Jovi got his just desserts. Titles ought to be earned. Now he's confined to his basement playing that awful game, Fight Forever. Well, Fight Forever doesn't look that awful. I mean, I think
Yeah, it's actually pretty good.
That was awful. Shaq Fu looked awful.
Oh, God.
Fight Forever is not that bad.
Oh, I can think of worse wrestling games out there. Anybody remember, what was it called? Legends of Wrestling?
Oh, yes, I do. That was kind of like right around 2003-ish, right? 2003,
Yeah.
maybe. I remember that game. Yeah, that was like there was some bad looking images. I think Macho Man was in that, Hulk Hogan was in that, Bret Hart. Yeah, that was a bad one. Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
But yeah,
Okay.
like this whole situation with Jovi in going for the interstate title, like, I'll even admit it, it's just a matter of time with him.
Why do you say that?
Okay, so I'll say this: if there's one person when this thing started that every one of us looked at and goes, he's gonna probably be the one to at some point carry the company on his back. There were two specific people that fit that mold. One is Craven.
Well, I mean that speaks for itself. I mean he's put the company into avenues that nobody thought this company would be going to right now.
Right. His stuff is great, but the other person was Jovi.
Well, Jovi has a following. There's no question that if you look at YouTube, if you look at what he's done in his career now, with I think him reinventing himself, and I've said this here this season, to me, Jovi's been the MVP of the season. I know Craven's got the title, but to me, it's really been Jovi that has stood out most. Look at your matches with him. I mean, is a perfect example. I mean, to me, Jovi, and even Adonis's match. I mean, Jovi to me really, each show has been pound for pound in the best matches. I might even argue.
Yeah, and some people do see that too. Is that pound for pound, he is been in some of the hardest hitting matches this year. Not just this year, in all of WCE. You've got
his wars with Craven. He holds a victory over Craven. We've seen Darkfire for his anniversary last year. So no, listen, Jovi.
It's not just that. The stuff with James Marshall, the match with Kodak last year.
Yes.
The last time he got an interstate title shot, which was against Jonathan Pierce, that's where he realized that he needed to improve himself even more. And the thing people don't understand is if you're not willing to make the changes, and he's made so many changes and improved himself, you're not going to see any results. And Jovi is on the cusp of being the best wrestler of backyard wrestling in the past 5 years.
That's a
Like,
strong statement because I've had on in the last month. You do
you know,
realize I would say two of those guys that are right there, and one Atomic Titan, and two Jack Delta. That's
and
a big statement there.
Jack Delta's great. Jack Delta's great. Jovi has something that is untapped and unrealized and backyard wrestling at some points, and that is he has how do I put this? His mind was made for wrestling.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you. Jovi's mind for this business and this industry, I mean, it's second to none. I mean, the four pillars, you guys all bring that, but Jovi, there's something unique about his mind when it comes to wrestling.
He thinks about he doesn't just think about, how am I going to get to point A, get the title. He thinks about every little thing. How am I going to not only how am I going to get the title, how am I going to keep the title? How should I approach the situation? you know he has this natural ability to just connect with people too. If you just talk to him on his own, he is one of the and I'll say it might be to his detriment, he is one of the nicest people in the business. And
Oh,
you
I
know
would say in my career, in my almost 5 years of doing this, I think he's one of the nicest people in just any genre I've had on.
yeah, and yes, people can say he's too nice. I've heard people say that he's too nice. That's kind of the point of, one, not one that's spelled, but the other point of anytime I targeted him is I wanted to bring out what he has not tapped into. He has a fire inside of him that, when it is, if you can light it and keep it lit, it is some of the most violent stuff you'll ever see. And that is the only thing that I say, was needed to get him to that level that he needs to be at to be interstate champion. Because Craven, as impressive as he is, as great as he is, when somebody beats him, great, that's going to be impressive. The thing that I find more impressive are the matches for the interstate title at times, because that title has been fought for so much. I was involved in a Dark Fire,
You fought a lot for
JDT.
it last year. We had you on. Let's
Yeah,
talk about it.
yeah, and as Craven kind of has that stranglehold, and he's doing his Craven is amazing right now. He's doing great. I almost feel that Craven hasn't had to worry yet.
Well, I'm glad you said it, and I want to transition in a second. I got some comments, and I want to ask you a couple other things here before I make a big surprise announcement guest that's about to come on. But I'm glad you did say that, because I have been saying this throughout the season. Craven's competition, frankly, hasn't really been up to par as other champions out there. You think about it, Killer Rabbit, Prince Charles, Adonis Felios. I mean, we can go on, and the competition for Craven hasn't been up to par. You and Jovi have been in wars. I mean, you think about it. Okay, Marshall, he faced Marshall. Okay, fine. I'll give you that. He did face Marshall in a champion versus champion. But Craven's opponents this year, it's been not certainly as up to par as some might say for other champions. But let me say hello to some people here before I get to a couple of other things. I want to give a big shout out to my very good friend, Mr. James D. Simone, out there from the friendly confines in Long Island, who I know we're going to have bring on Sportswire Radio before he goes to start his college basketball career. Really superstar basketball player, superstar wrestling fan. This guy is going to be a big time deal. The fact that we have him on here. Big shout out to our buddy JR Wynn. JR is the man, by the way. Love JR Wynn. JR is always waving the flag for wrestling. Majestic Wrestling, always putting out there great stuff for them, promoting them. He promotes us a lot. He promotes WC. Love JR Wynn. JR wants to come out to see you guys, so he's definitely out there. And James thinks that he's got Joby winning the title. Might well be the case. CJ Black certainly doesn't have much good to say about us. He says, my eyes started twitching when I wasn't named as the best. I owe a punch to yours truly. And Crenson, your hat is going in the trash. I promise you that. The only thing I will say to CJ Black, not to get political, but I guess you might say, because I am on Russian radio these days, and I would say countless people that listen to us on Russian radio, I guess I could call Vladimir Putin then. I guess Putin might actually pick up my call, because I would have to imagine he probably listened to some of the interviews today. But we're just kidding there, just kidding on the last part. But I think I could probably call a few Russians and help out there. But James Taylor, the nemesis James Taylor, says hello, and he believes that he'll destroy Craven Rage. Well, he's got his own hands full in Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. Prince Charles breaking news segments are blah. That will be cut from the show when I own WC. Mark Packer still sucks. Well, I've made my point that Prince Charles, to me, certainly those breaking news segments, breaking news, let's cut those segments. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Let's definitely cut those segments. Let's focus on him in the ring. But, I want to ask you something before I go over to something else and then do something that's going to surprise a lot of people that are tuned in right now. You addressed some other companies. You mentioned a few specifically by name. You mentioned a few specific wrestlers. And I was curious, Mr. Crenson, if you wanted to elaborate on any companies, any wrestlers that you might want to specifically say, that you might want to, I don't know, investigate, maybe seeing your skills, how they might match up with theirs?
Certainly, but I kind of want to address CJ Black there, with this little comment there. Sure. You talked about not being labeled on the list of some of the best out there. CJ, it's kind of hard when that list includes people like Rad Hazard, King BW, Chris Castle, people like Psycho Rob, Joey Jet Avalon, Shane Hunt, Tim Mecca.
I was going to mention your old foe, Tim Mecca.
Guys like a Justin Dredd, like a Nick Colucci. Backyard Wrestling has a vast history that goes way beyond what we are doing now here. And, to be up in that upper echelon, CJ, maybe you are. I got to check your stuff out a little bit more here, but you've got a high bar set already above you guys.
Well, some think that Mr. Black may think too highly of himself. Maybe that's something that some have said. It's not
and that's
my
good.
opinion.
And that is good. As for other companies, ROEW, I have been kind of keeping my eye. I have been kind of keeping my eye on them. I've seen Jason Storm on here. I've mentioned Jack Delta, obviously.
Jack's been on here. CJ's been on here a few times.
CJ's kind of getting my attention. Might be a good thing, might be a bad thing for him. Who knows? Might be a good thing, might be a bad thing for me. You never know until we meet. And then you've got places like DKW, Matthew Forsaken,
Combat Joe,
Darkron. You got friends like our lovely Mr. James Taylor here,
41,000 subscribers on YouTube, Taft Taylor and Taft_Taylor on Instagram,
and who I've seen him. I've seen some of his stuff, and he does have that. Me and him met eye to eye, and we've talked.
Yes.
And James, why not focus on somebody who really gives you a fight? But other, with guys like James Taylor, you've also got to address, I've not talked about them as much as others here, and I've interacted with them, but you have to kind of address the elephant in the room that is IMF.
They have certainly made WCE fodder for them and a target. They have certainly
E-
targeted this company over the past 3 months more than I would say any other company.
here is the thing, though. The fact that they're doing this actually shows that WCE is doing something right. Because here's a little tidbit for you. They're the ones who reached out first. They're the ones who contacted and started this ball of challenges rolling. And they have over several thousand subscribers. We only have several hundred. And what does it say to you when they are open, are the ones to knock at the door when
Well, I mean, maybe they look at it as it's an opportunity for them to explore an avenue and see who the best might be. Jordan Nets is their champion. We've got obviously Dirty Donnie, Soldier, you mentioned, has been on here. Omen Black, who's certainly been no stranger to Sportswire. So they have some guys that
they do. And here's the other thing. They also want backyard wrestling to grow.
yes,
Anytime we this is the best moment in backyard, one of the best things to happen in backyard wrestling, for the simple fact that it is leading to something bigger. When you get the WCC, as much as we're fighting to see who's the better man, who's got the better champion, who's the better wrestler and stuff like that, what we are fighting for is putting backyard wrestling on a map that it hasn't been seen on for years. And I mean years. We're talking about going back to days of super shows, days when you get backyard feds from all over the country congregating
the days
in
when
one.
TV was looking at it going into backyard wrestling. We're talking about well over a decade ago.
Yes, and you mentioned Jordan Nets.
Yes.
Jordan Nets has been one of the guys that I have followed in IMF for a while now. There's two guys that have caught my eye. And, surprisingly, the two people that caught my eye aren't Omen Black or Soldier GP. It is Jordan Nets. It's people like Jordan Nets and Jason Myers. Both have both are extremely talented. Both remind me of younger versions of, well, here's an example. Jordan kind of reminds me of Kodak.
I had thought of it that way. That's an interesting analysis there.
And I at some point want to head down there and check them out. Who knows? Maybe I know now that he's the champion, he's doing open challenges here and there. Who knows? Maybe at some point, I'll put an open, I'll accept one of his open challenges, and I'll come down there and I'll challenge him for the IMF title. And you know what? Fair trade. If I were to challenge him for the IMF title, that means if he ever wants to and he ever finds his way, he can challenge. He automatically gets a shot at this if he can keep his IMF title. It's basically a fair trade.
Are you contractually allowed to go to other companies though? I mean, you work for
Yes.
you're a WC employee though. I thought.
No, I am a wrestler, and I'm not exclusive to WCE.
So you have a contract that allows you that you can go to other companies and explore.
Oh, everybody does.
Okay.
Everybody does. Because
some champions though, are different. There are some champions have massive contracts, and we understand that.
Here's the thing: the management kind of learned its lesson. Only certain places are kind of off limits for us, but I think management learned its lesson. As in, they even said they never wanted to prevent us from doing work any other place.
Okay, well, you know what? That's an interesting thought there. I have some more comments here. JR would like to thank me for being on the Russian radio today. Yes, that's going to put a lot of people out there. We really hope, just as what we've done here in Sportswire with the British wrestlers and the British audience, I believe that's going to be another avenue for us here with the Russians. Because if you think about real quick, In Russia, they're only now exploring wrestling. So I think we're on to something that maybe, just maybe, that we're going to go into a new audience and get some new people into some new homes out there. So I'm really excited about that. Good idea, J.R. Wind. You want me on the mic? Well, I guess, Zero, you'll have to figure that out. James Taylor says, do you promise to give me a fight? Can you really hold your own against me? Well, you're the one with the title right now. Mr. Taylor at the Anniversary 6 just lost to Jay Wild in a 2 out of 3 falls match. So and he bled there to where he passed out. And CJ Black says the best thing about you is your hat. I hate that hat. But CJ Black right now is in a foul mood because he's actually contractually obligated this week on ROW TV to face off with Jacob Collins. And Jacob's going to be here tomorrow night to talk about that. Our friends in DKW, which are really doing a great job out there. But this is another company that's just doing phenomenal work. I can't stress enough how much that we love this company. Dark Cryptic Wrestling. These two gentlemen are great competitors. Let me ask you a question before I get to an announcement here and a surprise from somebody. I do have to get to that. So I want to give you a quick opportunity. Is there anything else or any final words that you have for Adonis Felios, the Drip King, your opponent in your first defense for your RCW Underground title at Showdown in the Yard?
Adonis, I hope you're prepared to fight for your life, because that's what this is going to turn into. Because you think you're desperate now because you haven't been so utterly embarrassed last show, and now you're desperate to be Galen champion again and have another title on your shoulder that isn't just one from your home federation. But Adonis, you're going to slip up. You're going to make mistakes. And that's where I'm going to capitalize, is your mistakes, because you still haven't figured it out yet. Until you do, I've got the advantage on you. You can beat me into a bloody pulp, and I will still have the advantage on you. And that's the thing, Adonis. Brute force is one thing, but being able to take that punishment and then just manage to, I don't know, lock in a simple armbar or hit a knee strike at the right moment, an elbow at the right moment, at the right specific spot on the jaw that you need to. See, you can hit me with whatever you want. All I have to do is just hit you right here with whatever just the right strike to the temple, and you're out like a light, kid.
Ever heard the expression timber when something big falls? That could be Adonis, is what you're saying.
It could. Like I said, Adonis, don't think I just have one way to beat people or two ways. I have a million ways that you can die.
Okay, well, you know what? I think we're really, really fascinated to see what happens as Nicholas Crenson defends his RCW Underground Championship against the Drip King Adonis Felios. And you can certainly follow that on YouTube and Facebook at WC Heat, WCHeat.com for more information. But Nicholas Crenson, before we move on to final thoughts, I have breaking news here. And I have an announcement because there is somebody here that wants to address everybody on Sportswire Radio, his opponents, including somebody you might know as one of your up-and-coming proteges. And we are talking about none other than the man who has arrived into the WCE arena. He is here live now in Wisconsin. He is Skulls, the Soul Hunter. And shockingly, Skulls has made it. He has made it to WCE. And Skulls, what do you have to say for yourself now that you've arrived and you finally made it back to the big stage here in your debut in WCE?
People thought I was not going to show up. to WCE. That's where I'm at now. I didn't travel too far to get here, in my eye. But I hope Craven is ready for his soul to be collected. Because any yard I'm in is my yard. And there's no point about that. Because I'll be the new ruler of this yard.
Wait. Did you just say that you're the now ruler of the WC yard and you're the one that's facing off with Craven, but aren't you in a four-way match to determine who squares off with Craven against opponents like, I don't know, Tyler Ark, who is certainly Mr. Crenson's up-and-coming protege there?
Yeah. Tyler, Ark, Baylor, J. Cyril. I might as well collect your guys' soul as well. Because I'm not going to miss an opportunity when it's presented.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you a quick question because I realize your time is very short here before I come back to Mr. Crenson. But so, what is it like now finally to have arrived here in WCE, and what does it mean to you to finally have made it?
It feels good to be back in a ring once again. I waited 14 years to be back in a ring. I waited too long just for someone to knock on my door and tell me, I want your soul to be gone.
You have any words, Mr. Crenson, for Skulls as he gets ready to make his debut in WC and his return to the ring for the first time in almost a decade and a half?
I'm actually intrigued. This is actually a very intriguing development, and I'm interested to see what Skulls here has to offer. 14 years is a long time to be out of the ring, and trust me, I know about long times between being in the ring, so I get that hunger that you have there, Skulls. And I want to see just what you can do. I want to see if my training is helping Tyler Ark at all. I want to see what is going to happen. And the best way for me to see that is I'm going to be in the back because Skulls, Tyler Ark, Billiards, J Stereo, four-way match, elimination for the right to challenge Craven Rage in the main event. I can't get involved with that because this is a match that we need to see a true undisputed winner in. Skulls, I hope you do succeed in your mission to collect the souls that you're looking for, because you are a wild card right now. Are you gonna be the wild card that ends the reign of terror? Who knows? I'm hoping so. So, good luck. Hope you get to collect the souls you're looking for. And I look forward to seeing whatever the beautiful violence you decide to make in the ring turns out to be.
Let me get to some comments here as people have tuned in to hear Skulls, who has made his debut into the WC arena. We'll be seeing him in Showdown in the Yard in a four-way match involving Billiards, Tyler Ark, and also Jay Stereo to determine who will square off with Craven Rage for his reigning WC All-Out Championship. So the Backyard Nightmare will get to find out the winner of this four-way match will be his opponent at Showdown in the Yard. JR Wynn says, take the mask off, can barely hear, but we fixed it. I think you sound a little bit better now, so don't worry about that. James Taylor, I really wish some of these guys would quit hiding behind a mask. Just kidding. Zero says Skulls looks different. Skulls sounds different. It might be a more motivated, determined Skulls. That's what I've learned here. From the last time I heard from Skulls to what I hear from him now, it might actually be a more determined. Skulls, how long has he been in the business? Well, he's been out of the business for 14 years. So he's basically starting back over in the business. So that basically tells you where he is. Who waits for the knock? If you cared enough, you'd kick the door down. And I think that Skulls, you have definitely kicked down that door. Amen from Matt Royale. Skulls, I want to give you the opportunity because I know you're getting ready to return to the ring. I know you're getting ready for a number of different things. It's a big deal for you. You've made it here after all the talk, all the videos, all the interviews, and you name it. You're finally here. So congratulations to you, regardless of what happens here. And I look forward to certainly recapping the WC experience with you live on Sportswire Radio very soon. Do you have any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to say for anybody that is out there watching and listening? And any other final words for your opponents and anybody you're about to meet in WC? I know Mr. Crenson, you'll be probably meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, like I said, whatever yard I step in, it's my yard. I don't care who said it's their yard, but this is my yard. Where the hell is Craven?
Oh! What? What? Ladies and gentlemen, do you just see what we just saw here live on Sportswire Radio? It is the backyard nightmare, the ruler of the yard. That is literally just taking down Skulls.
No one. I'm tired of being humble. I'm tired of people thinking they can come run this. This is my yard. I run it. I run it all.
Skulls has been buried. The Soul Hunter is like garbage right now on the floor. He is just like everyone else. Skulls has proven that he is certainly, his mask is even taken off. Skulls is down for the count. Skulls, no more. Skulls.
What just happened?
What just happened, Skulls, is that you were shown that Craven Rage is coming for you, and I don't even think you're going to make it past this four-way match. So, Skulls, I wish you a lot of luck. You're going to need all the help in the world after what we just saw on Sportswire Radio, because Craven Rage, the backyard nightmare, the ruler of the yard, the man some may say in the backyard scene is the most dominant wrestler, the most dominant champion in this sport, in this yard, just basically did a number on you. And he's about to, and some may say right now, expose you just like he's done to everybody else. So, Skulls, you got some work cut out for you right now. You got a lot of work cut out for you. So I wish you well. And we'll definitely speak with you soon. And anywhere we can plug you on social media before Craven beats you up one more time? Because you might want to put that mask on as well.
Craven, this ain't over. I'll see you this weekend.
All right. Well, Skulls, I think you better go.
WCE now. I did not come all the way from California just to get my ass handed. You haven't seen nothing yet, Craven.
Well,
I'm out.
Well, Skulls, remember the old adage, sleep with one eye open? That should be you tonight, because Craven Rage is going to definitely be in your dreams or certainly your nightmares. So, Mr. Crenson, obviously we got really almost the first here on Sportswire Radio tonight. We saw an attack from Craven Rage, proving that he is definitely no joke. He is the backyard nightmare. There's no question that Craven Rage has proved that this guy Skulls, this was basically Skulls had this coming for months. Some comments here from Adonis Felios. Prepared to be mauled by me. By the way, RCW champion Baron Corbin called. He wants his Happy Corbin hat returned as soon as possible. He meant burned down as soon as possible. I think he meant it returned as soon as possible. But that's Adonis Felios for you there. Put the mask back on. Yeah, well, I think we saw it first on Sportswire Radio. We actually saw an attack. Now, Matt Royale has witnessed some backstage confrontations on Sportswire between wrestlers. We've seen that with WAS, with obviously the Lawman, Kyle Kennedy, and Donnie Franchise, Matt Royale himself, and others. But we didn't see what we just saw here ever before in Sportswire history with the Craven Rage attack on Skulls. And JR Wynn says Skull just got his soul taken. Well, it looks to me as if he's on his way to becoming another Adonis Felios, another anybody else out there. And somebody else has to say, IMF in the house. I think I know who this is. And you addressed IMF before. And I also want to give a shout out to some may say original Craven, by the way. Chris Craven is in the house. I want to say hello to him. And I think we're going to be bringing him on tomorrow on Sportswire. So you're going to hear from Mr. Chris Craven tomorrow. And he's got something to say. I'm going to bring Chris Craven on tomorrow. And IMF is in the house. So.
Yeah. Well, this is odd.
You have an announcement? Something you want to say here? Is there something breaking?
No, just randomly got an email and all that was in it was a picture of a flannel. Not sure why.
Is that Skulls maybe playing mind games with himself? What do you think?
Nah. I don't think. Nah, couldn't be.
All right. If there's something breaking, we've got a lot of people tuned in still. People are coming in here left and right.
It's probably just some random person sending pictures.
Maybe it's the Russians. We got a lot of Russians now on Sportswire. Who knows? Maybe Putin is looking and saying, what are we doing on Sportswire? I don't know. I'm not trying to go down that road, but we do have some new fans out there in Russia. So I want to make sure we acknowledge that.
But, oh, my God. That was brilliant.
The first time in my career, 5 years I'm doing this, I've never seen an attack live on Sportswire.
I will say, as soon as I noticed that he was in the ring, I was like, I would not be surprised if Craven is somewhere.
You know what? So much for him being a soul hunter.
I honestly, that might bite Craven in the butt.
You sure about that? This guy came in here and he was calling Craven out for 5 months. Some may say he's had it coming to him.
Yes, and that's the thing. Like, Craven just kind of, well, one, he's taking him seriously, is what we can tell, because he just went out there and, you're not going to, go after and try to neutralize somebody that you don't think is possibly a threat, especially, as much as we hate to say it, it's 14 years, but he's also a wild card.
Oh, he's a total wild card. I mean, nobody knows what he can bring to the table. He might be the most fascinating story right now in WCE.
Really, and because there's really few things that Craven needs to look out for right now. He's had it pretty easy this past few shows. He's had challenges from Adonis, and he had
Marshall. I think the Marshall match people were curious in, but he hasn't had. This is a real wild card. I mean, you look at Craven's run as champion. I mean, this is the most interesting situation he might be in right now.
He's the last. Here's the thing, the Marshall match was one thing, and there was moments where Jovi and, every match there's, moments.
Well, Kodak, I think Kodak has been the one guy that I think is a question mark in the run. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where you could.
Yeah. Yes. And that's the thing is he went out of the way to put Kodak on the shelf. That shows you that, as boisterous and as, some people can say cocky as Craven is, he takes people very seriously. No,
he does. He definitely does. But I think some might say that this was something that was long overdue. And Craven just one-upped Skulls. I mean, Skulls has called him out so many times. Craven Rage. And
here's the thing, this might work in Craven's favor, but also he just gave somebody motivation. He's
I
giving
think he had
another
motivation regardless. He came all the way
no,
from
no, no, no.
California.
He he came all the way from California for just to take the title. Craven Rage just gave Skulls motivation to basically try to kill him. And there's only one other
But I think
person.
he said that though when he was on the first time, he even said, "I'm here for Craven." And he didn't say he was taking his title. He said he was here for Craven Rage. He's got him now at the very least. The question's going to be, does Craven now have a vested interest in this match to maybe stop Skulls from winning? That would be your follow-up.
I don't think so.
Because if I'm Craven, that's the guy right now that I want to make sure doesn't win. Even Tyler Ark, who I said was the favorite, I might still feel more confident now because this guy's Skulls clearly, I mean, it's almost like in Rocky IV, where all Rocky could think about when he went up there in the mountains was Drago. And he had the picture, the photo. He was going up there. This guy, and I don't know what this guy's got in his mind. This is what we learned tonight. That it's going to be real fascinating to see if Craven takes a personal interest now in Showdown in the Yard in this four-way match between Billiards, Ark, Skulls, and Jay Stereo. And Craven, by the way, has addressed, he is coming here and he's saying, I am going to destroy anyone who comes after my empire. And this guy's the guy that's done it. He said more about Craven than even Omen Black has.
Yeah, and
to be fair, Omen Black doesn't have a title anymore.
Yeah, and and here's the thing. Craven hasn't had a real thing to worry about. And when somebody, he wants to protect his empire.
That's what he did to JDT. He ran JDT. Nobody's heard of him since. JDT, everybody thought that was the guy that was going to take the title from Craven, the big bad JDT. And I don't even know what JDT is. He ran out of town like a chicken.
I see it this way, until somebody comes in that actually startles Craven, he's going to be on fire. Skulls is a wild card, so we might see some of the most violent stuff, and Craven just gave him a bunch of motivation to do it.
He definitely. I agree with you.
Yeah,
1,000%.
Like there's only one person, other than Skulls, that I say probably has more motivation to get Craven Rage. There's only one person, and I don't even have to name names. We don't have to say anything. All we have to say is who's not here.
Well, Kodak Kid's not here, and that's the guy to me that I've been looking at for months. What is with that's the one I think a lot of people could certainly point to. That's here nor there. I do have some comments. Let me get to comments here before I get to closing thoughts here. And again, recapping what has just happened here. About 15 or so minutes ago, we saw the debut of Skulls in a WC arena. And for the first time in Sportswire Radio, we had an attack for one wrestler over another. And that was Craven Rage, the reigning, defending WC All-Out Champion, senselessly attacked the Soul Hunter and certainly put the Soul Hunter in an even more foul mood. And we'll see how that impacts him in his match for the number one contender slot for Craven Rage's WC All-Out Championship. That'll involve Mr. Crenson's protege, Tyler Ark, the man of matches, Jay Stereo, and Billiards. So that'll be a match a lot of people will certainly be looking at here. My friend Matt Royale, by the way, Matt, definitely message me. I want to bring you back on Sportswire Radio toward the end of the month because we have more things to talk about in WAS. So I look forward to speaking about, I think also your title match is coming up here with Disciples. So I'll talk about that here at ENSO as well. So thank you for that. ROEW Backyard Wrestling, what a show. Adonis Felios goes on with Q's. Want to give a big shout out to our boy Dirty Donnie. Of course, Dirty Donnie is one half of those IMF Tag Team Champions. Love our friends at IMF Wrestling 666 on YouTube. And JR Winters, Adonis, when you bring out some merchandise. Well, let's see if Adonis can win a match for a title here first in WCE. In the works, though, we appreciate that. Are you sure the RCW champ that Baron Corbin didn't send you that email? No, I think Baron Corbin right now is worried about saving his career in WWE rather than sending out Nicholas Crenson emails. That would be my point. And that was a good one. That was a good one, right? IMF, all we need to say for yes, IMF, definitely love IMF. And something tells me here IMF is going to be on Sportswire very soon, along with some other companies. So I want to give you the floor now, Mr. Crenson. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say? And the floor is yours, my friend, on a rather eventful appearance once again on Sportswire Radio. And I turn it over to you and fire away.
Yes, let's just say I'm gonna kind of get over a few things.
Sure.
Adonis, let's go to war this Saturday. I'm going to take that belt off of you. Or actually, my brain just skipped a second there. You're not going to take this belt off of me. Secondly, this is such a great time in wrestling. We've got stuff like this in Backyard Wrestling Showdown Yard. You got IMF and DKW. IMF is probably going to meet up with us at some point. You got ROEW on the possibility of a massive Backyard Super Show at some point. And then you have probably some of the best wrestling this past weekend with Money in the Bank and Forbidden Door the past couple weekends. Like, the fact that Roman Reigns got pinned the first time in
a tag
3
team
years,
match, nonetheless, and by a family, by his own family member, by his own cousin.
And then you've got stuff like the Ospreay Omega match and the infamous return.
How about
of the
the
Tiger
Jericho
Driver.
Palace segment here? The way that ended. I mean, that was interesting.
Oof. Yes. And then, on 4th of July, I still have to see it. I know Jovi caught it. There's a annual Game Changer wrestling event called Backyard Wrestling. And I
probably should have saw that instead of Indiana Jones.
If you have Fight TV Plus, it's free.
Okay, yeah, I actually have Cody, so I might actually be able to catch that out there. So
yeah, and then and just everything is slowly building because this is Showdown in the Yard is a big show, but we've got bigger shows coming up after this. We've got Rise to the Occasion. We've got our September shows. We've got Fight or Fright 3, which is going to be probably the biggest show we've ever done. And who knows, maybe that email will make sense soon enough. Who knows? But I'm just so grateful to be part of Backyard Wrestling again and be a part of wrestling because this is a plethora of just people who want to entertain the world. And that's what wrestling is. It is, you can, you got that, sports entertainment. Wrestling is a form of entertainment.
When I was on Russian radio today, Mr. Davidson asked me, he goes, how do you label wrestling? Is it sport or is it entertainment? So I explained it's a little bit of both.
And that's true. Like, look at American wrestling, look at British wrestling, look at Japanese wrestling, look at Backyard Wrestling. They all borrow from each other.
Absolutely.
Whereas, American wrestling, you could say does do a lot more talking, but you also have American wrestlers like legends like Steve Williams, Stan Hansen, Stone Cold, guys who guys who could, couldn't really talk. You got guys who could talk, and you got guys who were basically just tanks in the ring. You've got from every type of style of wrestling out there. You've got, wrestling is a buffet. Wrestling
I
is a
always say it's
buffet.
like Baskin Robbins. There's 31 flavors for everyone.
And that's another example. Yes, there's a little bit of something for everybody. You got your lucha libre, you got your Joshi, you got your deathmatch wrestling, you've got King's Road, you've got arc style, you've got strong style,
You
you've
have your
got
mainstream wrestling that you see in WWE. Then you have sort of your mix of, let's say, the Japanese influence. Then you have kind of that technical aspect that's also you see from a CM Punk or a Bryan Danielson. Then so you have a little bit of everybody out there, lucha libre, luchador type of style. So you have a number of styles out there.
you've
that-
got stuff like in the UK, like World of Sport.
Yep.
You've
Marty
got
Jones, absolutely. We spoke about
Rev
World
Pro,
War many times. Yep.
Rev Pro,
Progress.
Progress,
We have
nonstop
Ignition,
action, GT.
TNT Pro. Absolutely. Listen, you're speaking my language on Sportswire. This is stuff we speak about all the time.
Wrestling, it right now is at its biggest and most successful ever, and that's across the board.
Oh, I 1,000% agree with you. I think right now, and this is somebody who covers it on a global level. I think wrestling is in the best shape it's ever been, even better than in the boom of the late 90s, because at that particular time, you didn't have the territories that you have now. Everybody can go work somewhere now. There was a period of wrestling you didn't have that opportunity.
And who knows? Matt Royal, said something earlier, and you know what? Even if I, having this or not, I've always wanted to travel to the UK. So who knows? Maybe I'll get a passport.
We could certainly help Mr. Crenson. You know that we could certainly find you a couple of companies that might want your services. So certainly you got the right booking agent here in front of you.
And it's the best thing about this is, as much as you want to, we got these guys, and I'm gonna break it right here. You've got everybody wants to be in kayfabe and keep kayfabe going here on Sportswire. You've got your Craven, you got your Skulls, you got your CJ Black in the comics, you got Ullman, you got
Taylor's here again, you got James Taylor, you got Jack Delta's out there lurking. I mean, you got Atomic Titan, a whole list of people.
Wrestling is, everybody who's involved in backyard wrestling right now and involved in wrestling right now has to feel proud, because we are changing the game again. We are bringing this to something it needed to be. And Showdown in the Yard is just, actually no, Showdown in the Yard is probably the second or third step. Where this really, I would say, began is, with IMF and DKW when they started doing their stuff, and then when they got to us, and then and via them getting to WC, they got to you ended up getting a hold and talking to people from IMF, from TBW, from ROEW. You have basically been a corner. I want to say you have been the lifeblood of backyard wrestling right now, because all the coverage you have given us, all these companies.
Oh, listen, I feel, and I'm going to totally say it straight up, and I know I have some comments out there, and a lot of people are still tuned in, and I'll hang out for a few minutes on this, is that I know we're on the cusp of something special. I know that we're on the cusp of something great. And again, speaking on extraterrestrial, worldwide Russian radio, they're interested in it. So if the Russians are interested in it, if the Brits are interested in it, what we're doing here with backyard wrestling, I think it's going to blow up. I think what we're seeing with all the different coverage, TBW, DKW, ROEW, WC, IMF, there's even more companies out there. Legendary Backyard Wrestling I'd like to plug, because Sunday I'm with them and Chris Aruda, Backyard Wrestling Hall of Fame. Who would have ever thought we have a Backyard Wrestling Hall of Fame? So if you think about what the yard scene is like right now, I mean, I continue to say it. I think right now it's more, it's actually, I shouldn't say it's more, but it's definitely, to me right now, more impactful than some independent wrestling scenes out there, because what is being, it's going to the masses, and that's how I see it.
And in the other, you just mentioned how big it's getting. It's almost like somebody should go back onto the Yardopedia wiki page and start editing it. I did find that Sean Jovi has a page on there, and that
Well, James
definitely
Taylor,
needs to be
listen, James Taylor, right, started out in 98. I mean, Delta, who's the darling of backyard wrestling, is in almost, I think, 10 states. I mean, Atomic Titan is the guy I had on Promo Wrestling Federation, guys, and they know who Titan is. There's certain guys right now that, are going into people's homes. Yourself, Jovi, Craven, Marshall. I mean, there's something right now that I think we're on the cusp of something. And I think also RWA, I like to shout them out. They're doing stuff. They're putting on like these weekly 10 to 15-minute shows, and they're just doing episode. And, right now there's so many avenues for people. And I think it shows what we're doing here, and we want to give those people an opportunity. Let me get to one more comment here, which is from Mr. Taylor before closing thoughts here. You have any dream opponents? Because it's James Taylor, I'm going to let him ask you that question. Any dream opponents?
Dream opponents. Now, are we talking Impossible Dream or Yarding Dream? Because, like I said,
Give me both.
If I go Impossible Dream, there, like my dream opponent that I know I'll never face is Steve Corino.
It's a good one. That's a good one.
Just because he's got his, he's probably retired. But no, my true
Steve Corino, I think, works for WWE now as an agent. I think he's a producer guy, right? I think I last saw.
I think last I saw, he's one of the reasons why I love pro wrestling and love wrestling in general.
Great work in ECW, by the way. Did some great stuff there.
Oh, the best face, the best face turn in ECW.
Yep.
You get
might
to
have
New
been
York.
The best. He might have been the best blader, by the way, if I recall.
Yes. But the fact that he got the New York crowd to love him and boo, just incredible. Is just great.
Yep. Okay.
But other than that, in backyard wrestling,
yes, that's what Taylor also wanted to clarify. Backyard.
I would like. James Taylor, I would like to face you at some point. Jack Delta, I've already listed off.
How about the TBW champion Ledger? I mean, this guy's been on an amazing run. He's another guy.
Maybe. I definitely, the IMF crew, there's the obvious ones like Omen, like Soulja.
Jason Myers was a good one. That was a nice one.
Jason Myers and Jordan Nets are two that I really want to test myself against, or more test them. Because
I'd like to see you, by the way, legendary backyard wrestling, CJ the Alpha. I know they wrestle on trampolines, but these guys, him and Napalm, just put on a match the other day that I recommend going out there and checking it out.
I'm gonna definitely check them out, and I definitely have been interested in looking at what they could do. Here's a little tidbit. When I started on mattresses, so it's nothing new here.
Hey, listen, people started on cement and pavement. I remember my own forte into backyard wrestling in
oh god, wait, were you around? Because I've seen these backyard feds pop up in New York City where it's done on a playground. Or on it's basically at a park and it's pretty much concrete.
Well, I mean, when we tried it, I tried it for about maybe a year. We were growing up in Brooklyn, and it was basically we would do it in somebody's back alley. It was we had, if I recall correctly, we did it down the block from my old house, and then we would do it. There was an abandoned house for a while. We were actually doing it in the alley of that, and then they kicked us out, and then we were mostly doing it on cement pave. So it was it didn't last that long. Let's put it that way. It didn't last that long. We didn't have other videos,
Other dream opponents. It's really hard for me to say. Obviously I could list off champions Jordan Nets, Jason Storm, CJ Black.
I think Matthew Forsaken would be a great opponent for you. Him would fit a very interesting style.
Yes, definitely. The DKW guys like Matthew Forsaken, Combat Joe. I look at this as the best time to be in backyard wrestling because
I agree
of how big it is becoming. And we have And we're not even scratching the surface of the backyard feds that are around in the country.
No, it's only a
we've
drop in the bucket. Yeah, this is only a drop
Yeah.
in the bucket.
Yeah, because like I said, there are places like XCW and down in Indiana. There are like several backyard feds in Texas. There's
We
one
had
I
on
saw.
one early in the year with a guy, Adam Morgan, and I unfortunately it just didn't. Not that it didn't click with me, but it just we cover so many things on Sportswire. Adam Morgan has a company. It just didn't. I don't know. I just didn't. We didn't do enough coverage of it. Maybe we have to revisit that. But there's just so many companies out there. I mean, you could spend all day going out there. But that's why I say that to me, the backyard scene right now is far more fascinating than even some of the indie stuff. Because
not
the
just
indie
that.
stuff, yeah.
Like I said, you've got places like another one. There's one in New York. I think it's called NUW.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've briefly heard of it. Yes.
And then there's another one that just caught my attention called VTW Wrestling out of North Carolina.
Okay.
So backyard
I've heard
wrestling.
that one. Yeah.
Yeah, backyard wrestling is booming again.
100%, 100%, and I think that there's opportunities out there, opportunities galore, and it's again like Baskin Robbins, 31 flavors. There's a flavor for everyone.
I will say this: I'm going to make this here. We already know that there's probably going to be a super show, a big super show at some point in the next year here. I want to kind of make this bold prediction is that within the next 2 years, you'll see at least maybe 2 or 3 massive super shows in backyard wrestling.
You know what? Stay tuned. Anything can happen. And I'll say this live, ladies and gentlemen, we'll cover it.
I've got one thing to say.
All right.
You asked me what my dream opponents would be. You know what? I don't have a dream opponent. I have a dream event.
Okay. What do you got?
Imagine. No, there's 2 ways you could do this. You could be a month. It could be a week. But imagine either doing one of 2 things. A massive cross-promotional tournament with you've got people from all over the country, and we're just fighting to put on some of the best wrestling in the world, and we do a massive tournament like your Battle of Los Angeles, like your New Japan Cup, or heck, who knows, maybe we could do a round robin style and make a yard basically the backyard equivalent to the G1 Climax.
Well, you know what? Why not, right? Why not the forbidden door be open? Why not give people what they want? Why not create opportunities? And something tells me here, ladies and gentlemen, opportunities are going to knock. But until then, I know one thing. Nicholas Crenson is going to be defending his RCW World Underground Championship coming up this weekend at Wrestling Championship Entertainment Showdown in the Yard against Adonis Felios, the Drip King. You'll see that plus a number of great matches. You'll see Zambaronis and also Catalyst for the Interstate Openweight Championship. You'll see for the golden ticket on the line, it'll be Dark Fire trying to break a losing streak against Dash Andrews. We'll also see Skulls in the ring trying to get an opportunity to see if he can face off with Craven Rage, the man that attacked him tonight, plus much, much more. You can follow Wrestling Championship Entertainment at WC Heat on Facebook, YouTube, and WCHeat.com. All right. Well, Mr. Crenson, I certainly appreciate your time with us tonight. Certainly an eventful one on Sportswire Radio. We saw it first. You want to say one more thing before we go?
Yes, if you want to follow me on YouTube, it's at Nicholas Crenson, and same with Facebook at Nicholas Crenson as well.
Absolutely. We definitely plugged that earlier on. So one more time, Nicholas Crenson on Facebook, YouTube. I know you're on Instagram, but I would really prefer people go to Facebook and YouTube, especially YouTube, because we've got a whole list of Nicholas Crenson footage that you can go out there and watch and find out why he has finally broke this drought, and he is one of our favorites on Sportswire Radio. My friend, we'll see if the first defense is a successful one. I have no doubt that we're going to talk about it here for sure. coming up next week and more. And I thank you for the opportunity with us here tonight. And looking forward to watching you in the ring as always. And keep up the good work, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson, the reigning defending RCW World Underground Champion from the group Vector, as he'll square off with Adonis Felios, the Drip King, in a match for that RCW World Underground Championship. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, the man behind Sportswire Radio. If you're on sportnarium.com/player, you're going back to your regularly scheduled programming. If you're on YouTube and Facebook, I'll be back 6 p.m. Eastern Time with Jacob Collins to talk ROEW plus much, much more. And thank you, everybody here, for tuning in on the #1 global radio station. And thank you, everybody out there who listened to our historic interview today on Davidson Radio 620 AM. Da Pasiba, Pожалуйста, for everybody out there in the Russian motherlands. And good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, on the #1 global radio station that is Sportswire Radio.